My name is Marion Cole, and I am 62. By now I was supposed to be the kind of woman who keeps extra quilts in the hall closet and a pie cooling on the counter. Not the kind who can recite routing numbers by heart. I used to believe a name was a key you loaned to family in a storm. Then one afternoon I heard a sound so small I almost missed it. The click of a lock turning somewhere I couldn't see, and I realized a key can open or it can empty. If your mail starts showing up somewhere you don't live, take it from me, the house that moved might be your life. The white plastic wristband glows a ghostly blue beneath the corridor's neon. On my tray, pale chicken, obedient green beans, a wobbling crown of red jello that catches the TV's light without convincing anyone to watch. CN murmurs from a wall like a neighbor arguing under their breath. I tug the sheet to my waist, balance my phone on the rolling table, and open my banking app. Mortgage payment posted. Not mine. My house was paid off years ago. This is Claire's mortgage. My daughter's tidy too story with the cheerful wreath and the dog that never quite learned to heel. The same amount has been leaving my account each month, as if I lived there. As if, mother, also means automatic transfer. The number sits on the screen like a bruise I press with my thumb to be sure it hurts. A cart squeaks past. I touch the wristband, not jewelry. Entry, not belonging. The night nurse sets down a paper cup and a smile that has learned to be efficient. Your family said you're here because it's easier for everyone, she says, the way people say weather. She tucks the sheet a little too neatly, checks an IV I don't have. Hands me a folded invoice with my name spelled right. Easier, I repeat, testing the word as if it might dissolve on my tongue. The invoice lists the facility in a font built to be obeyed, and then descends into smaller ones the way institutions always do: room and board, care level, incidentals. At the bottom, responsible party Claire, agent under Pouet. My name appears again, not as a person but as a payer. The total blurs until it hums like the TV. When will mail from my bank arrive? I ask. All patient correspondence is sent to the address on file, she says. Her eyes flick to the tablet. To whatever the screen says my life now is. Your daughter provided it. There's a phone in the hallway, the kind fixed to the wall with a cord coiled like an artery. Families make quick calls there. Residents make long ones. I punch the bank's number, cradle the receiver between shoulder and jaw, and answer the security questions only someone who has paid attention to my life for decades could know. The street I learned to ride a bike on. The middle name my mother hated. Could you confirm my mailing address? I ask. Keys tap. Professional silence fills in the shape of a decision made without me. Yes, Miss Cole. Your statements are being sent to Brookview Lane. The woman pauses. Shall I read the number? I don't need the number. I can see the wreath, hear the dog, feel the porch light that Claire never remembers to switch off. And when did that change occur? 3 days ago, she says. Authorized by an agent under your power of attorney. When I set the receiver back into its cradle, the sound is soft and final, like the click I heard the day my name became a tool. Somewhere between the wristband and the invoice, between neon and Jell-O, a door I didn't know I owned swung open and someone else walked through. If the mail changes direction, it isn't the post office making a mistake. Someone has turned your key, and the door they opened is you. When the mail reroutes, the money follows. The hallway phone is bolted to the wall with a cord coiled like a vein. I dial with the deliberate slowness of someone who knows the number by muscle memory, and the dial tone hums in my wrist the way the fluorescent lights hum in my teeth. Waxed linoleum shines in a way that tells on you. Every scuff becomes a confession. Down the corridor someone laughs, too loudly at nothing. I press the receiver to the soft place below my ear and wait for a person to arrive on the other end of a maze. Thank you for calling, a woman says, her voice professionally warm. We waltz through the questions. Mother's maiden name, first elementary school. The street where I learned to ride a bike and skin my knees. And then I ask the thing that has been pulsing behind my eyes since last night. I need to change my mailing address back and remove an authorized agent. I want my statements sent to me. Keys tap. I picture them like rain on a roof I no longer own. Cole, she says, your power of attorney, listing Claire Cole as agent, remains active. I'm afraid you cannot change settings while a POA is in effect. The words are clean, stainless. I lean against the wall, the cord tightening across my shoulder like a seatbelt that thinks it's saving me. That POA was temporary. I say. It was only for my knee surgery. Claire said it was just in case they needed a signature while I was under. Do you have a revocation on file? A pause opens in me, widening. I am back at my kitchen table 2 years ago, the week of the operation. The house smelled like lemon oil and boiled pasta. Claire had printed a packet from the internet. Pages warm from the printer, a yellow highlighter bruising certain lines, so they looked important even if they weren't. Our neighbor Glenda came with her notary stamp and a tote bag that always sounded like marbles. I wore a zip-up hoodie because I was cold, even though it was June. We signed on the lines with blue ink because someone, somewhere, once said it proved the document wasn't a copy. Just for the week, Claire said, brushing the hair off my forehead like I was still feverish with a 6-year-old's flu. Temporary. Makes everything easier if the pharmacy or insurance calls. Temporary. Like a rental car. Like a storm. We slid the papers into a manila folder with the taxes and warranties and the owner's manual for a blender I never loved. And then I got better. I climbed stairs again, one careful triumph at a time. I made coffee the way I like it. I forgot to unring the bell we had hung at the door. No revocation, I tell the woman. Not yet. In that case, she says, your agent can continue to act on your behalf. To remove her, we'll need a notarized revocation delivered to us and to any third parties relying on the POA. I can email the instructions to the address on file. The address on file is not mine. It's the wreath and the dog, the porch light left burning at noon. Across from me, the bulletin board holds calendars of group activities in cheerful fonts. Bingo night, chair yoga, movie matinee, as if structure is the same thing as freedom. Email them anyway, I say. I'll get them. I don't know how yet, but saying so makes a small, stubborn room in my chest. When I hang up, the click is soft, almost kind. Temporary in America lives a long, healthy life when someone needs it to. The hallway swallows me back up, but the cord's imprint on my palm lingers like a promise I owe myself, signed in a blue I can still see. One old signature, binding the present. Nora finds me in the lounge, where the TV is explaining a storm in a state I don't live in. She lowers herself into the chair beside me with a sigh that's mostly for the camera pointed at the ceiling and the clipboard that lives in her hand. She is the kind of nurse who remembers how you take your coffee and how you hate the scratchy blankets, but will pretend not to notice when you slip them to the foot of the bed. Today her scrubs are the color of robin's eggs in rebellion. I shouldn't, she says, which is how you know she will. From her pocket she slides a photocopy. The edge is warm like it was just born from a machine. It's the facility agreement. The thick one I initialed in 3 places on my first afternoon here when the world smelled like disinfectant and loneliness. We lean together, conspirators over a kitchen table that is not a kitchen, the paper balanced on our knees. My wristband clicks against the armrest as if reminding me it exists for everyone's convenience but mine. Nora's finger. Nail trimmed, no polish traces down the dense paragraphs, past the sections with words like indemnify and hold harmless. The kind of words that ask you to give away something you didn't even know you owned. There, she whispers. A box, darkly outlined like it wants to be seen, frames a single line, responsible party Claire, agent under POA. The letters might as well be carved in oak. Beneath it, a place for the resident's signature, which is mine, in a blue that looked brave when I made it. I want to say that responsible means love, means casseroles in foil and rides to the doctor and a key placed on the ledge by the back door, just in case. But here, responsible has a price tag printed in sans serif. It means the monthly rate, the Medicare codes, the add-ons you don't know to refuse until you already have them. It means that a daughter's name can become a lever that moves money instead of furniture. Nora flips a page, taps another square in the maze. You should read this, she says, and the should lands like a lifeboat thrown from the deck. The paragraph looks like every other. Small letters arranged like soldiers. And yet it is the kind of sentence that can reroute a life. Any dispute arising from this agreement shall be resolved by binding arbitration. Resident waives right to trial by jury. There is a waiver for class actions too. A quiet little scissor cutting the thread that would bind me to other voices. I hear the TV say something about pressure systems and think, of course. Pressure rises when you seal the air tight enough. Arbitration is a closed room with no windows. It is what happens when a story like mine is told in a whisper instead of a courtroom. They call it efficient. They call it private. What they mean is controlled. Can I get out of it? I ask, and I already know the answer because life has trained me to read the room before the room reads me. Nora doesn't lie. Maybe, she says, if a lawyer asks the right questions. If you didn't have capacity that day. If. The word hangs there, as light as lint and just as everywhere. I run my finger along the margin where my initials sit, small and obedient. My name dutiful as ever, made to consign its own shrinking. Somewhere, my daughter's signature blooms with confidence. Mine looks like someone holding her breath. The paper flutters when the AC kicks on, lifting and falling as if the agreement is breathing for both of us. I think of the hallway phone, of the voice that said the POA remains active, of the email I told them to send anywhere just so I could catch it midair. I think of how even a temporary bridge can carry a lot of traffic if no one bothers to close it. I need a lawyer, I say. Not the kind who talks louder than he listens. The kind who reads every letter like it could be a trapdoor. Nora folds the copy back into her pocket. I didn't show you anything, she says, and the way she looks at me is the opposite of helpless. Neither did I say, and for the first time since the wristband, I feel the room crack open by a millimeter, enough for a draft of choice. The small print is as wide as a door. I borrow the activity room during the lull between chair yoga and bingo, when the TV naps with its mouth open, and the janitor's cart clicks past the door like a metronome. The tables are the folding kind, nicked along their edges, sturdy enough to grade papers on if I still had papers. I spread out my life the way my mother used to spread a pattern on the dining table notebook, pen, highlighter, phone balanced on a styrofoam cup so the screen won't time out. Date, description, a memo. I rule columns with a borrowed ruler, steady as if straight lines could redeem crooked days. The banking app breathes numbers at me, clean as winter air and just as unforgiving. I copy them down, column marching beneath column, until the page looks like a narrow street in a tidy town. And then I see it, the way you see seepage along a basement wall, only after you move a box. Autodraft, Brookview Care and Rehab. The amount is what a person pays to be kept safe by strangers. 2 lines down, on the same calendar week mortgage payment, Claire Cole. The same account, the same month, the same hand turning 2 knobs. I pause with my pen in the air because the wristband clicks when I breathe too shallow, and this feels like holding my breath under dishwater, counting plates, pretending I can stay down forever. The ledger doesn't care. It keeps going, a river too sure of itself to look at the banks. Another auto draft, Brookview 30 days later. Another mortgage, Claire like a shadow that doesn't need sunlight to exist. The repetition makes its own weather. I flip back through months. The pattern pulls taut. There's a rhythm to the withdrawals. Facility on the 1st. Mortgage on the 15th. As if some metronome in a house with a cheerful wreath has been conducting my money while I learn which hallway turns lead to the good vending machine. I swallow. Responsible, the contract said, the way a cashier says next. Halfway down March I catch a name I don't recognize, a stranger at my kitchen sink. BRVLD SLC, ACH debit. Not big, not small, exactly the kind of amount that slips under a conscience. It repeats on the 20th, then the 20th again in February. And January, marching backward with that polite persistence people admire in others until it costs them. I tap into the details. There's a suite number attached to the LC 221, and I don't need the street to know it. Claire once texted me from the UPS store, "Mom, can you grab my package from box 242? The code was our old address, the one with the maple that dropped helicopters on the sidewalk every spring. I write FA 214 beside the entry and circle it until the ink begins to look like a drain. I draw a little faucet in the margin because it helps to name things flow, leak, valve. The money is leaving me in 2 directions I didn't choose, and a third I never knew existed. And I am the only one in this room with hands. The door cracks open and Nora peeks in as if the room might spook. "Do you need anything?" she asks, and I think of answers like a time machine, a thicker pen, a daughter who asks before she takes. I shake my head and return to the list. The numbers sit there obedient, waiting for me to stop being polite. I take a breath. Not later. Now. I star the facility auto draft, the mortgage, the LC. I make a second list titled calls. Bank, facility billing, post office. To ask what counts as a mailbox and what counts as a lie. Somewhere in this, a valve exists. I can close it. If I have to learn a new language to name the parts. ACH recurring. Revocation. I will. When money runs in two directions, it doesn't simply go, it takes. I'm done mistaking movement for necessity. I put the cap on my pen with a click that sounds like ownership returning to its hinges. Shut the valve before it runs dry. Miss Keating finds me halfway down the corridor, where the light makes everyone look a little washed, and the corkboard is busy promising community through laminated calendars. She tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, glances toward the nurse's station, as if kindness might be contraband, and slips a trifold brochure into my hand. ELDR Labullied is printed in the kind of font that wants to be trusted. A phone number. Hours. A line about free consultations that reads like someone holding a door. I can't give legal advice, she says, voice pitched for the space between us. But I can hand you paper. Paper has been both the problem and the cure in my life. I take it like you take a hand across black ice. Gratefully, carefully, already bracing for the slide. 10 minutes later, I'm in the activity room. The one with a wall of jigsaw puzzles missing the same corner piece in every box. The bingo board is dark for now. A white folding table sitting center stage like it's waiting for a confession. We set a borrowed tablet on top, anchoring it with a coffee mug and 2 blue bingo chips so the camera won't see the ceiling fan instead of my face. When Mr. Ramirez appears, he's wearing a tie the color of midnight and the expression of a man who knows what words can do. He asks me to speak first. I do, in the halting way you list symptoms to a doctor you hope will say the pain is not your fault. Wristband, invoice. Bank statements rerouted to a porch with a wreath I bought on clearance. Auto draft to the facility. Mortgage payments for a house I don't live in. A third stream to an LLC whose mailbox number my daughter once texted me like a password. He doesn't interrupt. When I finish, he leans forward until I can see the tiny check pattern in his shirt. Here's the order, he says, tapping a pen I can't hear. 1. You revoke the POA in writing. Notarized. 2. We send notice of revocation to every place relying on it. Bank facility, any vendors. 3. We demand an accounting. 4 months of transactions tied to your funds. 4. We request your discharge plan in writing and make sure the PTOT notes say you're safe to go home with home health. The words line up like stepping stones across a stream I've been drowning in. Can I do this from here? We'll bring the notary to you, he says. We'll send the letters today. He clears his throat and the air changes. I also need to tell you something difficult. Based on what you've described, use of your funds for another household, rerouting statements, recurring transfers to an entity connected to your family, this may constitute financial exploitation of an elder under state law. I'm a mandated reporter. I'll file a report with Adult Protective Services and notify the bank's fraud unit. That gives us leverage to freeze further outflows. I sit very still. It's one thing to suspect the house is leaking, another to hear a stranger name the flood. Part of me wants to make excuses that sound like lullabies. They were scared about money. They thought it would be temporary. I said yes once and forgot to say no forever. But lullabies won't sandbag a river. Okay, I say. The word is small and sturdy. Do it. We'll also explore a temporary restraining order on transfers. He adds, already writing. You keep logging everything. Dates. Amounts, who said what. Detail is your friend. When the call ends, the tablet screen goes black and I can see myself, a woman with a plastic wristband and a paper spine that's learning to be bone again. The bingo board behind me flickers to life. Numbers pop in a grid like coordinates. I fold the brochure and slide it into my notebook. For the first time since the wristband, my breath reaches the bottom of my lungs. I am not alone. The law has a phone number, and this morning it answered. One zoom, the board flips. The notary arrives rolling a small suitcase that clicks like a metronome over the tile. He introduces himself as Mr. Lee and asks for a quiet place. The charge nurse offers the dietitian's office, a room that smells faintly of oranges and copier toner. We sit at a round table meant for menus, not law. He unwraps a stamp the size of a matchbox car and lays out his tools journal, blue pen, a ruler he uses to make signatures line up, as if order could be drawn with inches. At the top of a clean page I print in block letters that steady as I go ref oa of aftoar and ey. The words look severe and necessary, the way a tourniquet looks when you've seen enough blood. I write my name, my address, the date. I state clearly that Claire is no longer my agent, that any authority she once held is revoked, effective upon notice. I initial each line because I once learned the hard way that your name can be bent if left alone too long. Driver's license. Mr. Lee asks, and I hand it over. He compares the photo to my face, the way you compare two halves of a family story, then turns the document back to me with a nod. Sign here and here, he says, sliding the ruler to keep my hand from drifting. The blue ink blooms, my name in the exact shape I remember when I liked it best. He stamps the acknowledgement. The seal leaves a crisp halo. Would you like a scanned copy right away? He asks.
Yes,
I say. And a fax. We move to the admin copier, a machine that hums with purpose and breathes out warm paper like a body. Nora meets us there with a sticky note of numbers, the bank's secure fax, the facility's records desk, Claire's work line. On the cover sheet I write time, sensitive legal notice, revocation of POAs effective upon receipt. In the subject of the email I mirror it and see Mr. Ramirez. I tap request read receipt, because sometimes you need proof that a doorbell was actually rung. The fax wears, pages vanish into the feeder, then reappear on the other side of the county as declarations. The email whooshes with less drama, but I feel the message leave my hands all the same. I send a second copy certified mail because paper respects stamps more than feelings. 20 minutes later, my phone vibrates with an answer from admissions and billing. We have received your document. However, because we have a POA on file, we will need the authorized agent's consent to remove and update. The sentence is smooth and practiced. Like a hallway you've walked so many times you forget it's not the only route. Before the floor can tilt, Mr. Ramirez replies, all, no. A single word, heavy as a gavel. Then more state law recognizes revocation upon notice to the agent and to third parties relying on the instrument. Your facility is now on notice. Continuing to rely on the prior POA after receipt of revocation may constitute wrongful refusal and could expose you to liability. Update your records immediately. Direct all billing and discharge planning to Ms. Cole only. He attaches a citation I don't need to understand to recognize authority. He closes with, please confirm by end of day. There's a pause long enough for me to hear the copier settle, the seal of the notary cooling on the page. Then acknowledged. Records updated. Future communications will be directed to Ms. Cole. Please advise on preferred billing arrangements. I exhale in a way that feels like returning to my body. The wristband hasn't left my arm, but it no longer reads like a barcode. It reads like proof of where I was when I remembered how to hold a pen. The law, I decide, lives in the right sentence, not in the habit of those who have used it longest. Habit is a groove. Law, when you point it true, is a straight line. I tuck the notarized original into my notebook, where I've made a pocket out of tape and stubbornness. Out in the hall, the bingo board flickers to life, B12 lighting up like a small blessing. I touch the blue ink until it dries, my name again, and feel the hinge shift back toward me. One fax, many doors. Claire arrives with a paper bag, and the kind of Starbucks order that announces itself, my name written in marker on a cardboard sleeve. The latte heat fogging her glasses for a second, so she blinks like she's seeing me for the first time. Josh is behind her, jangling his car keys too loudly, the way men do when silence starts to feel like a quiz. They smell like wet leaves and cinnamon. And for half a heartbeat, I remember Saturdays at the farmer's market. How we would count tomatoes into a brown sack and call it love. Hi, Mom. Claire says, setting the cup on my tray so it leaves a damp ring. We wanted to check on you. Josh adds, we brought a treat, as if treats have jurisdiction. Nora waves from the doorway and disappears. And then it's just the three of us, and the TV muttering about a recall in a state I've never voted in. Claire unzips her tote and produces a packet whose staples have bitten down hard. The top page is printed in a font designed to be soothing. Enhanced care upgrade. Bullet points like promises, increased supervision, medication management, support. Fall prevention add-ons. At the bottom, a total that could rent a small apartment. It's temporary, Claire says, sliding the packet toward me, her polished nail tapping the signature line. Just until you're stronger. It will help everyone. Everyone is a word that always seems to exclude the person paying. I slide my notebook onto the tray, place it like a coaster between the lad and my life. Inside, in a pocket I made from tape and resolve, sits a copy of the revocation of POA with Mr. Lee's seal crisp as winter. I lay it on top of the packet the way you lay a photograph over a rumor. We talked about this, I say. The facility has acknowledged the revocation. Billing and discharge come to me. Josh leans in, elbows on his knees. "No one's trying to fight you," he says, which is the kind of sentence people use when they are already mid-fight. "This is care. You need more eyes on you." "I need control of my own eyes," I answer. Claire exhales, cheeks flushing the way they did when she was 8 and her science project fell apart in the car. "I didn't want to say this," she says, which is how you know she did. "We have temporary guardianship. Josh talked to. Well, we have it. So we can sign." The wristband clicks against the tray when I lift my phone. Mr. Ramirez picks up on the second ring as if he was sitting in the hallway waiting for this exact moment. I put him on speaker. "Counselor," I say, "my daughter is asserting temporary guardianship." There is a small sound, paper being turned, or perhaps the kind of smile lawyers save for contracts that overreach. "Guardianship requires a petition and a court order," he says, voice as steady as a metronome. "I just ran the docket. No such case. What Claire has is a healthcare proxy, which allows medical decision, making only if you lack capacity. It does not authorize financial transactions, placement decisions against your wishes, or upgrades that increase your bill. Your revocation of financial POA is effective. The facility has confirmed. Any signature under responsible party must be yours alone." Claire's chin trembles. "I was scared," she says. "You fell." "I stood back up," I say. "And I signed my name." Josh looks at the packet like it betrayed him by telling the truth in letters as small as insects. "We were trying to make it easier." "Easier for whom?" I ask, and this time I make sure the question doesn't apologize for existing. The room holds its breath. Somewhere down the hall someone wins at bingo and whoops like a kid at recess. Claire folds the packet, edges no longer aligned, and presses the heel of her hand to one eye as if a headache is a verdict. Ramirez is still on the line. "If anyone presents a document, ask them to show the court's seal or the letters of guardianship with a cause number," he says. A word that sounds like power is not power. Claire nods without looking at me. Josh picks up the lat to hand it to me, but his hand forgets where mine is. I take the cup, warm and ordinary, proof that my fingers know how to close around what's mine. Names can be costumes, I think. Proxy, guardian. Upgrade. They glitter under fluorescent lights until you ask them to pay the bill. Authority isn't a syllable, it's a record. A seal, a right turn the correct direction. I tuck the revocation back into its paper pocket. "No upgrade," I say. "Not today. A proxy is not a crown." They fit me with a gait belt the color of mustard and call it safety. PT stands on my left, Ot on my right, the two of them a set of parentheses I'm supposed to walk between. Cane in the hand opposite the weak knee. PT reminds me, and I do as told. The hallway is a runway of taped lines and encouragement. I walk to the red line and back, heel to toe like a kid proving she's not drunk. We practice the turn, the way the cane plants before my foot does, like a punctuation mark that keeps me from running off the sentence. Stairs come last, a wooden box with 3 steps and a rail bolted to the side. Up with the good, down with the bad. OT sings, a rhyme from some classroom years ago. I grip the rail, feel the tremor in my arm, and move anyway. On the 3rd try, my breath learns the timing. I am not elegant, but I am safe enough to tell the truth. After lunch, the discharge planner appears with a clipboard and the voice of a person who has told a lot of families how things will go. We sit in a small room decorated with watercolor flowers, as if softness can be printed. She reads from the PT OT notes, ambulates with single point cane, requires handrail for steps, independent with toileting and grooming, needs verbal cue for safe turn. Then she looks up. Home is appropriate, she says. With home health nursing and therapy. 2 visits a week at first, tapering as you meet goals. The words land like a door opening. I see my kitchen again. Sun through the window above the sink, the hook where my keys hang, the calendar with a grocery list stuck on by a strawberry magnet. I'd like that, I say, and my voice surprises me by not breaking. She smiles. We'll develop a discharge plan today. You can choose your home, health agency. We'll order a temporary handrail for your front steps. A shower chair. We'll set you up with a fall, risk bracelet for the first 2 weeks. Just in case. Somewhere between her sentences, the phone at the nurse's station rings. I don't hear Claire's voice, but I recognize the hush that follows. The hush of people rearranging words so they'll fit a different map. A few minutes later, the planner's tablet pings. Her mouth tightens. The petals on the wall seem to take a step back. Your daughter called, she says carefully. She expressed concern that your home isn't safe. She means it's not convenient. I say, and then soften, because even truth doesn't need to be sharp to be real. I have a rail. I have neighbors. I have a door that locks from the inside. Another ping, she scrolls. Or admin received a letter this morning from your attorney citing Medicare discharge planning requirements and your right to participate in and consent to the plan. It references the PTOT findings and your capacity. She looks relieved, the way people do when an answer arrives dressed as policy. We will proceed according to the guidelines. I picture Mr. Ramirez's email, the parts in bold: patient choice, documented functional status, safe discharge environment, no unnecessary delay. For once, the alphabet soup lines up in a way that tastes like food. Nora swings by the doorway and gives me a look that is both question and celebration. I nod. We finalize dates. I sign the plan, the right document, this time with the right name in the right place. The planner asks about rugs and cords, and whether I can move the coffee table. I promise to tape down what might trip me. She promises a follow-up call 48 hours after I'm home to be sure the plan walks the way it talks. On my way back down the hall, the wristband clicks. But I don't feel branded. I feel cataloged, and for once, that's a way of being seen instead of owned. Safety, I decide, isn't a pair of handcuffs. It's a rail under my palm and a plan with my name on it. Whose safety, whose convenience? They call it a case conference, but it looks like family dinner in a house with too many rooms. Faces in squares, each with its own lighting. The facility's administrator appears under a clock that runs a minute fast. The discharge planner sits in front of watercolors that never wilt. The bank's compliance officer wears a headset and the patient smile of someone who has learned to say no as a full sentence. Mr. Ramirez is a neat rectangle of midnight tie and calm. Beside his name is another square, Mitchell, SQ. Counsel for the facility, tie looser. Eyes weighing risk the way a grocer weighs peers. Let's keep this efficient, Mitchell says, which usually means let's keep this quiet. Ramirez nods. We'll start with the money. He shares his screen, a spreadsheet that looks like a city scene from the air. Rows for months, columns for destinations. He's color-coded the routes. Blue for the facility auto draft, green for the mortgage on Brookview Lane, amber for BRV Holdings LLC, that monthly drain to Suite 214. He highlights each stream in turn, the way a teacher traces a river on a map, dates, amounts. Memo lines that try to sound innocent for the kids' thanks. A lone emoji that ages before our eyes. To be clear, the bank officer says, leaning toward her camera, these were all from Ms. Cole's account. Yes, Ramirez replies. From an account now protected by a revocation of POA received and acknowledged last week. We've also requested a full accounting for 24 months. We have reason to believe the LLC is controlled by family members. Mitchell shifts. The facility billed the party on file in good faith. You were on notice the day you got the revocation. Ramirez says unbothered. He clicks to a second sheet. Exhibit B, emails with timestamps, read receipts, the tidy trail you leave on purpose. Going forward, you'll bill the resident directly, and you will not solicit a care upgrade from anyone other than Ms. Cole. A softness moves through the discharge planner's face. The look of a person relieved to be told what the rule already said. Our PTOT documentation supports discharge with home health, she adds. We're proceeding under Medicare guidelines. The bank officer clears her throat. I've initiated a fraud hold and notified our elder financial exploitation unit. Outflows outside ordinary living expenses will be paused pending review. My phone buzzes. For a second I think I've imagined it. A phantom alert, like a limb that remembers being used. But there it is, attempted transfer. 1-800 to BRV LD Ingis LC, mobile pending, 2 minutes ago. The little clock in the facility admin square says the same thing. I'm seeing a live attempt, I say, my voice steadier than my hands. The bank officer's screen flickers as she works. Confirmed, she says. Mobile initiation from an IP address previously associated with Joshua Cole. I am declining it and locking external ACH access. Her tone doesn't gloat. It just lands. Mitchell coughs. Lawyer for a building that just watched a door close. Ramirez's cursor hovers over the amber column like a finger on a faucet. This, he says, is why we fence yards. Not to punish. To stop the goats from eating the garden. No one speaks for a moment. Somewhere in the hall a cart rolls by, squeaking like a cricket that survived winter. The discharge planner breaks the quiet with logistics: delivery of the shower chair, installation of the handrail, first home, health visit Tuesday at 9. The practical kindness of nouns. Mitchell finally leans in. "We will comply with the billing change," he says. And with discharge planning, he doesn't apologize. He doesn't need to. The fence has already been built. Ramirez stops the share. "Mems Cole will continue to log all communications," he says. "Bank, please send written confirmation of the hold and decline transfer. Facility, any further contact about placement, upgrades, or billing goes to my client only." I look at my hands, wrinkled, steady mine. When people start to run, it's because the ground beneath them has turned solid. You can't sprint through a brick wall. You either stop or you bruise. We end the call. The squares wink out until the screen shows my face alone, thinner than I remember and somehow fuller. The room is the same, but the air has changed. A window I hadn't noticed has been slid shut, latch catching in the good way. Meeting over, the window closes. Ramirez files the motion before breakfast, the way some people make oatmeal. Measured, practiced, no wasted movement. He calls it what it is: an ex parte application for a temporary restraining order, prohibiting any transfer of funds out of my accounts without my express written consent. The affidavit is a college of evidence we've been collecting: screenshots of auto, drafts, the cross-referenced UPS box, the read receipts that finally made time work in my favor. He attaches the discharge notes that say I walk with a cane and a plan, not with confusion. He asks the court to act quickly because money knows how to run. I sit by the nurse's station, where the printer exhales other people's lab results, and watch my phone like it's a heart monitor. In a different life, I spent mornings teaching kids to find verbs. Today mine are restrain, enjoin, serve. Nora slides me half a banana and tells me to breathe, the same way she told me to plant the cane before turning. At 10:40 a.m., the docket pings. An order appears with the judge's name in a font that doesn't need to shout. The bottom right corner bears an electronic signature: the date, the time, the kind of precision money respects. Guarantee. Financial institutions holding accounts in my name are hereby enjoined from honoring disbursements, withdrawals, or transfers absent my direct consent. The words are measured, ironed flat, and yet I feel them like hands catching a plate before it hits tile. The bank's compliance officer emails 1 minute later: hold in place. External ACH disabled. Debit card limited to point of sale with PIN. It's the bureaucratic poetry of a door sliding shut. My app updates in real time. A gray padlock beside places that used to look like they were mine, but acted like they weren't. I set the phone down and realize my shoulders have been up around my ears for an entire season. By lunch, the other line starts to ring. The family line, the one you can't mute. A cousin calls to check on my mind. An aunt texts a prayer hands emoji and a question mark. Claire's neighbor messages a paragraph that manages to use the phrase for her own good 3 times in 4 sentences. Somewhere, Josh has dialed the old phone tree. She's not competent. She's confused. We're just trying to help. Rumors spread like dandelions. No one admits planting them. Everyone sees the seeds. Ramirez does not litigate on Facebook. He sends them the order instead. He also drafts, quietly, without ceremony, a letter from my primary care doctor documenting capacity. Oriented to person, place, time, understands financial decisions, repeats and explains back discharge instructions. The law speaks in documents. My days will answer in kind. I line up my pillbox. I confirm the handrail installation. I call the home health agency and choose a Tuesday, because Tuesdays have always been the day I do hard things. I keep my log: who said what, who called whom, what we signed and when. In the afternoon, I walk the hallway twice with the cane, and no one holds their breath for me. The wristband ticks when it meets the rail, a metronome turning time into straight lines. I think of reputation as a field you thought would take care of itself until weeds introduced themselves as flowers. A lawyer can fence it, only your behavior keeps the posts true. By evening the room is the same, but the air is different. No transfers leave without me. No signatures pretend to belong to my hand. The phone still hiccups with people's fears wearing costumes, but fear is not a stamp. The order is. When people start to run, it means the fence finally exists. You don't sprint through a wall. You stop, an electronic seal. The quiet is real. Nora meets me at the front doors, her arms already open. She smells like hand soap and coffee, like the part of a morning that keeps everyone upright. You call if anything feels off, she says into my shoulder, as if steadiness could be transferred by contact. Outside, the air is September sharp. Ed from 2 houses down idles at the curb in his old pickup, paint the color of faded denim, passenger door that needs coaxing. I climb in with the cane and the paper bag that holds my discharge folder, and Ed tips an invisible hat like men of a certain decade do. The vinyl seat remembers summers. We turn out of the lot, and the facility slips into the rear view like a movie I watched twice. We don't say much. Columbus looks exactly as if it's been waiting for me. The diner with the crooked E on its sign, the maple that drops helicopters onto the sidewalk, a kid dragging a stick along a chain, link fence so that the neighborhood makes its own music. When Ed pulls into my drive, the new handrail gleams on the front steps, already catching sunlight the way a thing does when it means to be used. He kills the engine and waves off my thanks. Holler if you need a hand with anything heavier than common sense, he says. Inside, I pause in the kitchen doorway because rooms keep secrets in their corners. And I want to give this one a chance to tell me it missed me. The light over the sink still does that soft flicker before it commits. The calendar is 2 pages behind. Strawberry magnet clinging to a list that starts with filters and ends with, call Claire. The way you write wishes before you understand their cost. I set the bag down, press my palm to the laminate counter and feel, of all things, relief. A house is not a person, but it can be a witness. I go straight to the safe behind the flower bin. Combination the same as the day my husband chose it. Our first address, the one with the dangerous stairs and the stubborn radiator. Papers breathe when you open them. Title, birth certificates, the revocation stamped clean, the TRO with its algorithmic signature. I add the discharge plan, the home, health schedule. The list Ramirez printed of phone numbers that can rescue a week. I pocket a set of spare keys I hid from myself when optimism annoyed me. The locksmith arrives before the kettle boils. He carries a toolbox like a doctor bag and asks, new cylinders or rekey? I choose new. The old deadbolt comes off with a tired shrug. The new one slides in with the snug satisfaction of a word in the right sentence. He hands me 3 keys on a brass ring and a receipt that won't hurt to pay. I keep one in the ceramic dish by the door, one on a lanyard looped around my wrist, one in the safe, redundancy as religion. On the second ring, the home health agency answers. We confirm Tuesday at 9. Then add Friday. To make your daughter sleep better if she's still trying. The scheduler says, kind without asking forgiveness for it. I walk the rooms the way you walk a perimeter you intend to keep. Tape the rug edges, move the coffee table, measure the bath for the chair that comes tomorrow. The mail slot coughs. An overnight envelope with the bank's blue logo skids across the mat. Inside, a letter with language so careful it could hold glass. Your lender will consider an assumption by Claire Cole within 60 of days upon application and qualification. Pending such assumption, you may cease voluntary payments. It's the kind of permission that should have been a conversation long before it turned into stationery. There are things you pay because love borrows your name. There are other things adults have to carry with their own signatures. I set the letter on the counter and feel the quiet settle into something true. The faucet in my life has knobs. Today, I am the person who reaches out and turns them. Home, the valve is closed. The kitchen light is a single pendant with a pull chain that clicks like a metronome. I tug it on, and the laminate table becomes a stage for numbers. Ramirez's paralegal emailed the provisional accounting an hour ago, months stacked like cardboard boxes, each labeled in a careful font. Facility auto drafts. Mortgage withdrawals, those polite little transfers to BRV Holdings LLC that never raised their voice and somehow emptied the room anyway. I print it and run my finger down the rightmost column until the line goes thick above a total that makes my hand shake. There is a kind of tremor you get from age, and a kind you get from truth. Outside, a cricket tries the same note until he believes it. I take a pen and write the total again by hand, because sometimes a thing isn't real until your own ink says it. My pillbox sits beside the calculator like a jury that already knows the verdict. The fridge kicks on. The house breathes with me. In the morning, we meet over a screen. Ramirez, me, Claire, and Josh at their dining table with a centerpiece that wants to pretend this is about holidays. Mitchell, the facility's lawyer, appears for a minute to confirm they've corrected the billing, and then disappears like a stagehand who already moved the furniture. Ramirez clears his throat and shares a document whose title reads Settlement Memorandum Draft. The first page is a map, the rest are roads. He reads slowly. Not because I need time, but because words deserve it. Claire and Josh will repay the total misdirected funds on a schedule that fits inside a calendar year. Monthly transfers to an escrow Ramirez controls, with dates that will arrive whether we look at them or not. They will also pay attorney's fees. Mine. Not theirs. And the cost of the notary, the certified mail, every stamp I had to lick to get my name back. If they miss a payment, a confession of judgment will ripen into a gavel without ceremony. The TRO remains in effect until the last dollar lands. Claire nods, eyes fixed on a point somewhere above the camera. "We'll do it," she says, and for the first time in months, I hear my daughter's voice without the rust of explanation. Josh signs first, jaw set in that way boys learn on teams. Claire signs after, her signature as familiar as her handwriting on my refrigerator notes. Transformed today into a promise with teeth. When it is my turn, I pause. The document asks me if I want to refer the matter for criminal investigation. The word sits there, heavy as a winter coat I could put on if I needed the warmth. I picture a courtroom where strangers decide things about us we should have decided ourselves. I picture Thanksgiving with a seat no one can pretend isn't empty. I picture how justice can be a flood that takes your own garden too. No, I say, civil only. We keep a line. The line is the schedule, the escrow, the locks already changed, the alerts that ping my phone when a dollar thinks about leaving. The line is not a wall that lasts forever. It's a boundary that says what love doesn't cover, adults must. Ramirez doesn't argue. He adds a paragraph. No contact about finances except through counsel. No access to my home, no keys, no signatures that sound like mine, no listing me as responsible party anywhere. He slides the cursor to the signature block. Black ink, he says, a joke that isn't one, and I pull the pen across the page. My name moves like a boat finding the right current. When the courier leaves with the originals, the kitchen returns to itself. I make coffee and stand under the pendant small circle of light. Justice, I realize, is not always thunder. Sometimes it's a straight, dark mark where chaos used to be, a rule written in a hand that finally stopped shaking. I tape the payment schedule inside the pantry door. Each square on the calendar is a step. Each step is a choice. I wash the pen off my fingers and find that the ink clings anyway, like a boundary that knows how to stay. A boundary, signed in black ink. The diner on Main has a neon clock that runs 5 minutes fast, as if time here wants to hustle you along. I choose a booth under the clock anyway. The vinyl sighs when I sit, the way old things do when they recognize you. The waitress sets down waters, then coffee in mugs the color of storm clouds. When Claire and Josh arrive, they smell like the outside. The sharpness of night air, the sweetness of laundry softener that promises more than it has to deliver. We order like a family that's forgotten how not to. Burgers, fries, an extra napkin for someone who always needs one. The plates come out hot, the buns shiny with butter. The heat rises between us like the idea of comfort. The conversation stays cold. Claire keeps her coat on. Josh lines the ketchup bottle with his thumb and makes a tidy arc over his plate. I watch the way they don't look at the envelope I placed between the salt and pepper. The payment schedule, the escrow details, a map we agreed to follow even if it takes us past places we'd rather not remember. I wanted to meet here, I say, because this is where we used to bring the math team when they placed. Fries and root beers and laughing until someone snorted. Claire's mouth twitches at the memory, then smooths. We're making the first payment Friday, she says, eyes on the burger as if it might answer for her. We've already moved some things around. Josh nods, jaw working. We'll hit the dates, he says. We know the terms. Terms as if kindness were a contract drafted by a stranger. I take a bite of my burger. The warmth fills my mouth in a way I hadn't expected food could again. The clock ticks 5 fast minutes. Claire's hands begin to shake. At first it's the kind of tremor you blame on cold. Then her face crumples, and the sound she makes is not dignified and not performative. It is a daughter sound. I'm scared, she says, and the words come as if she's been holding her breath for months. What if you live a long time, Mom? What if the money doesn't stretch? What if we do everything right and we're still underwater? There it is, the sentence we've all circled. Not cruel, not noble, true. For a moment I see our future like a film strip holidays with coupons, A roof flashing in the rain, the way worry rewrites a marriage without asking. I'm scared, I say. Her head lifts at that. And I see the little girl under the woman. The one who once cried because we ran out of milk on a snow day, and she wanted hot chocolate that couldn't exist. I am afraid of the long game, of pills and premiums, of the cost of staying alive long enough to be a problem. Fear is real. Josh looks up, startled. Maybe he thought fear was a weapon I would refuse to name, so he could wield it first. But fear, I continue, is not a reason to borrow other people's keys. It can make us plan. It can make us ask for help. It cannot make us take someone's name and use it like an ATM card. I tap the envelope. This is the line. You'll pay back what left my account. You'll handle what's yours. I will handle what's mine. If we need to renegotiate holidays and hopes, we will. But we do it with our own signatures. Claire presses a napkin to her eyes, leaving a grease print shaped like a thumbprint. I thought I was protecting you, she whispers. Maybe you were protecting a story about me? I say softly. The one where I'm fragile and you're the adult. The truth is harsher and kinder. I'm the adult, too. The waitress refills our coffees and pretends not to notice anything but the mugs. Around us, the diner murmurs, forks chiming against plates, a baby hiccuping into laughter, a man in a camo jacket telling a joke that costs him nothing. I slide the envelope toward Claire. She picks it up like a fragile thing and nods. The burger stays warm, the night stays cold, and somewhere between the two we draw a straight, dark mark neither of us wanted but both of us need. This is the hard part of ethics. You define love in units the bank can't measure, in boundaries you keep even when your hand shakes while you draw them. Fear needs a law, too. The courtroom is smaller than television promises. No sweeping balconies, just oak benches that remember other afternoons. I sit at counsel table with my cane leaned against my chair, a stack of papers that smell faintly of toner and purpose. The clerk calls the case. The judge looks over her reading glasses, the kind of glance that has seen every way a family can disguise math as love. We are here on a status and confirmation, she says, voice steady enough to lay track. The court has reviewed the revocation of power of attorney and finds it valid and effective upon notice. Any continued reliance after receipt was improper. Her gaze slides to Claire and Josh, then to the facility's lawyer, who coughs like the room has dust only he can feel. This court cautions against using legal instruments as convenience when they are meant for care. Exploitation, financial or otherwise, wears many outfits. None are welcome here. Ramirez has a way of nodding that reads as gratitude and restraint at once. He recites the timeline without adornment, the revocation, the fraud hold, the accounting, the spreadsheet that mapped my money home. The judge listens the way a person tilts a pitcher. Nothing spills. When he finishes, she picks up a pen and draws a line across a page. The court accepts the revocation. She repeats, as if clarity needs echo. Then we move to the thing that changes rooms, the settlement. Ramirez slides the memorandum forward. Claire's lawyer, new today, hair too neat for comfort, says they consent. The judge reads the terms aloud, as if speaking them will make them true 12 monthly payments into escrow. Attorney's fees paid by the parties who used my name. A standing order that the TRO remains until the last dollar lands. And, she adds, tapping a paragraph with the pen's cap, the court finds the conduct leading up to this settlement to be in bad faith. The phrase is tidy and devastating, a label applied with the care of a museum placard. Claire's shoulders fold in. Josh keeps his eyes on a point only he can see. I do not look at them because this is not a punishment. It is a readjustment of weight, a return to correct load bearing. When the judge signs, click, click, the same sound every courthouse pen makes, something inside me slides back onto its bracket. We rise. The room exhales us. Outside, the hallway smells like coffee that has learned compromise. Ramirez shakes my hand the way men used to shake hands in photographs. This is the part where quiet is the victory, he says. He doesn't offer triumph, only the steadier gift of absence. No more leaks, no more signatures pretending to be mine. At home, the mailbox holds a white envelope addressed in a hand I recognize from birthday cards that always arrived a day late. Inside a check, the first installment, and a letter in blue ink that wobbles like a man trying to stand in a boat. I am sorry, Josh writes. Not for being caught. For forgetting that helping isn't the same as taking. We'll pay every cent. No Starbucks today. Just me, writing like a grown-up should have months ago. I put the check with the others. Paper clipped to the schedule taped inside the pantry door. The ink on the letter smears a little where his hand must have pressed too hard. I let the corner dry under the kitchen light, then slide the note into the folder with the order bearing that small, powerful phrase, bad faith. An apology does not reconcile a ledger. It cannot make numbers pretend they never traveled. But it can tilt a person an inch toward the self he meant to be. I pour Tia. Unlock the back door to let September in and feel the house breathe with me. Seal and blue ink. I lock the safe, press the edge of the manila folder down until it lies flat, and slide it back behind the flour bin where it has always lived. The kitchen hums. The refrigerator's steady breath, the kettle thinking about boiling. And I move in small obedient circles, pill organizer filled. The medication schedule taped to the fridge with the strawberry magnet finally earning its keep. A vase of grocery, store tulips, opening like cautious hands. There is a freedom to these domestic verbs, a grammar I chose. On the counter, the payment calendar I taped inside the pantry door clicks over to a new square. September leans in at the window. Ramirez calls at 10. Ready, he asks, and I can hear the smile he leaves for people who have already done the hard part. We meet at his office, the one with the fern that refuses to die, and lay out the next scaffold so the house I call my life doesn't wobble. He explains it the way a teacher would a revocable trust in my name, me as trustee while I'm able, a professional fiduciary named as successor, the kind who bills by the quarter hour and answers to a board instead of family gossip. We draft a new POA that is no longer a blank permission slip, but a key with a combination. It springs only if 2 doctors certify incapacity, and even then it requires the fiduciary's countersignature for transfers over a modest sum. Alerts ping my phone, and theirs. Accounts move under the trust's umbrella, so signatures. Mine, then theirs, stop feeling like costumes. A mobile notary meets us at the conference table. My hand doesn't shake this time. I sign, and the blue ink looks like the exact shade of my voice. Ramirez initials where lawyers initial. Then slides me a list titled after we fund the trust, a gentle set of errands. Change the title on the house, retitle the accounts. The DMV form for the pickup with the reluctant passenger door. I tuck the list into my bag beside a granola bar and my cane. 2 kinds of preparedness. On the way home I stop for milk and a stamp. At the island I pull out a sheet of good paper, because apology deserves no less and boundaries deserve exactly that. I write Dear Claire in a hand she learned by watching me. The letter is short enough to memorize and long enough to mean it. I love you. I loved you when you were 8 and wanted the science fair volcano to explode bigger than the kitchen could forgive. I love you now that money has shown us where we are soft and where we need bone. I am leaving you love in my will, a place at my table, my recipes, the stories that still make us laugh. I am not leaving you control. That is not love. A professional will take care of the levers when I cannot, and until then the levers are mine. Come for dinner next Thursday. Bring nothing but yourself. We can talk about ordinary things. Ordinary is how families heal. I fold the letter, seal it, and press the stamp down as if keeping a promise from drifting. The mailbox claps shut, a small approval. Back inside, the afternoon is a clean plate. Home, health calls to confirm Tuesday at 9 and Friday at 2. The shower chair arrives. Ed from 2 houses down carries it in, without pretending I can't lift a box. I place the tulips beside the sink, where the light is kindest, and run the faucet to trim the stems. For a second I watch the water. Its certainty. Its willingness to go wherever you point it. And then I turn it off, not because water is a villain, but because control is not a sin. There are things I will always pay from my heart: a ride at midnight, The Last Peach, a movie when the week was cruel. There are other things that will require ink and witnesses. I am not choosing one kind of life over another. I am choosing both the warmth of the stove and the cool precision of a ledger, the hug at the door and the lock that clicks afterward. I open my faucet. I close my valve. The rest is the long, ordinary business of living. Dignity on, faucet off. I'm Marion Cole, and I am 62. Once, my name was just a signature. Now it's the key I keep in my own pocket. I turned off the tap, other hands opened, and the house of my life got quiet enough to hear what love really sounds like. Next Thursday there's dinner on my calendar. No lawyers. Just forks and the question of whether ordinary can save us. If you've ever had to draw a line with a shaking hand, You already know how the story hums after the credits. If this hit a nerve, like the video, subscribe and ring the bell. Tell me in the comments. Where would you draw your line? And what would you do if the mail rerouted to someone else's door?